Man, and my co-host here is the Queen of Snark, Yaya.
Hello and good evening.
Well, Yaya, to say the least, this week or last couple of weeks have been out of control, topsy turvy, and it most notably has to do with a lot of people's relationship status, how they view life, and what further endeavors they do, most namely behind closed doors. Um, and in case you have been living under a rock lately, we're talking about none other than Shannon Sharp, aka Unk, and Tracy Ellis Ross.
Mm,
This seems to be a tug of war between the masses, most notably the sexes,
yes.
different age groups poking in their opinions and two senses of what should and what shouldn't apply. But, everybody's entitled to their opinion, and we live in a world full of judgment. So there's more than enough to spread. So I'm going to start us off. And, his name seems to be buzzing,
Hmm.
to say the least, and not in a good way. We known Shannon Sharp, aka Unk, for many things, for being his football self. He's a three-time Super Bowl champion, Hall of Famer,
Yes.
very brash player, very outgoing, outspoken. He did what he did. He earned the name Unk, and it's helped him in the new field within media. He started his club Shay Shay. He started his own brand. It's cemented as a bigger situation, bigger than life. At some points, he's hosted and talked to all the stars, all A-listers, and he is a guy from rural Georgia, where he had a rough upbringing, but at this stature, he's made himself into the man that a lot of people aspire. I know what people are going to say. That's the butt of jokes because of what his recent hiccups have been. But he is a good man and he's a stand up individual. I personally don't have no problem with him, but that's my opinion. My opinion shouldn't reflect on what others may think. But I lean into you, Yaya, with this because you've seen it. You have ears, you have eyes, just like everybody else. What is your take on a 60? No, not, I take that back. He's 56 years old.
Okay.
He's never been married. He does, however, have three kids.
Yes.
He's never disclosed, the mothers and things like that. Everybody is, I'm assuming for the most part, cordial. His kids are obviously grown and moved on. I think his daughter, one of his daughters, are in one of his businesses. I think she does like executive producing to one of his podcasting streams and other things like that. But and he has another daughter that does I think got her doctorates or a lawyer, something like that. But I know they're in professional fields and things like that. And he's seemingly a good dad. I've never heard anything bad about him. I don't think anybody's calling him out on his parenting skills. But with recent things that have, shown up, so to speak, I think people are always going to question one's behavior, one's character, obviously, and what certain intentions are. And I think that goes for anybody in any average person, whether you're dating, whatever kind of relationship you're in. Even in business, people are always questioning. Those are three fundamental questions people may need to ask. But I bring it to you because you are a female, and people are going to play this tug of war, as I alluded to, as far as when it comes to both him and Tracy Ellis Ross's situation. But give me your take as a female looking at Uncle Shay Shay.
So, obviously, with the situation he's in, there is quite the age gap. Very much huge age gap. And more often than not, that is the biggest talking point is you're messing around with someone that's younger than your own children. That's a problem. I personally have always had a problem with age gaps, no matter who the older younger is. Let's make that clear. Doesn't matter who the other person, male or female. I was never a huge component of very large age gaps. Especially someone, if I'm thinking about I'm dating someone my dad's age. What do we talk about? What do we do? I always thought it was weird. It was
Right.
weird. It's just not my cup of tea. Let's put it that way. Not my cup of tea.
Mm-hmm.
But to your Ludman, which I expressed this to you before, is he's just not a guy from the block. He's a very well-known,
Mm-hmm.
very wealthy individual.
Right.
And there's some things that you should be extra careful with what you're doing, because he's the type of person that public persona is very, very important, and you should do whatever it is that you need to do to safeguard that.
Right.
And I think he kind of went with the emotional physicality of it and not the logical way with this.
Okay, that's fair. That's a fair position to take. I think more so than anything, a lot of men, I'll put it out there, will say that it's a money grab, simply because what he's being accused of, the victim, quote unquote, didn't necessarily take the right protocol, or the necessary protocol, I should say. Instead of going and being so fearful and going to the authorities or respective people that handle this situation, she took a different route.
Yeah, she went back.
Yeah, she went back, and just kind of played the role, I guess. And ultimately now she's in fearful for her life. These are her words. This is what it's in the news blogs and all these kind of things. She's fearful for her life. He was threatening, and now instead of pursuing a criminal situation, of course, it's financial. So, like I said, amongst males, it's just viewed as a money grab, and essentially, how if you match up timelines, like everybody is,
my favorite thing.
I think something smells funny. So,
very much so.
I don't know, and then to compound it, you have Tony Busby. We all know who he is. If you're the right, if you are in a predicament, I'm not gonna throw shade or make fun and say anything, call anybody out of character. If you are in a predicament, you can expect for him to be that lawyer. He's done it with Deshaun Watson. He's done
only
it
a particular tax bracket predicament.
Right, correct. He's done it with Deshaun Watson. He's done it with Jay-Z. He's done it with, of course, Sean Diddy Combs, and now Uncle Shay, Shannon Sharp. So what's your take on that?
My whole thing with this, it was, I smell a setup from the beginning. I not necessarily to this extent, but she knew exactly who he was, what he was about, and what he had.
Right.
And I think she also may have played on, because this is not the first time that Shannon Sharp and younger people have been in the same conversation.
Right.
And I think she smelled an opportunity.
Of course.
And part of that is, I think, it wasn't turning out as lucrative as she thought it could be. That I should be getting a lot more out of this. Why am I not getting a lot more out of this? What can I do to get the biggest payout possible? And unfortunately, it's the payout that is not one for evidence. It's he said, she said.
Of course. Isn't that always the case?
In the court of public opinion.
Well, no.
And they always say, what a person does or dresses should not take part or should not be a part of this, blah, blah. She's an OnlyFans girl. She's not a school girl. She's not this quiet, meek church girl. She is an OF girl. Her platform is getting money Okay.
Mm-hmm.
For doing unchurch-like things.
All right.
And like I said, she found a very large paycheck.
I agree with you. Some people might describe it as a lick. She found a trick. She found a mark. I don't describe Shannon Sharp that way. I think, these names get into it. And I hate to say it as, people talk and me and you've had lengthy conversations about it. It just seems to be in brown and black communities that when someone is down, we just seem
Throw
to
gas
just
on them.
pile on. We just pile it on,
Yeah, throw
and it
gas on them.
seems to be the butt of all jokes. Obviously, you see the memes, and you see all the now everybody's at a sophisticated plight where they can sit there and judge and talk about what is this 50-plus-year-old man doing with a 19-year-old female, and the list goes on and on and on and
Well,
on.
we've
And
seen it in Hollywood. This is not an unknown thing. Could we have plenty of counterparts do the same thing, like
mhm,
Leonardo DiCaprio?
mhm, yep,
Like he's all his girlfriends,
yep,
and I think he's slowly his girlfriends keep getting younger too.
yeah.
Granted, never nothing of this happened to him, but does he like them young? Yes,
But
very much so.
you
Like
also
very
have
much.
to look at it from also this standpoint. He's not being judged by the
It's like
same
he's
law.
not involved in anything legal,
Right.
but you don't. I mean, he may have gotten scrutinized, not to this extent.
No.
But he's known to have very young partners. Jerry, is it Jerry Seinfeld? I think his wife is like 30 years younger than he is.
Correct.
And they got married, but there's a bit of an age gap.
Hmm.
It's not like it's in rich circles. This is not unheard of.
Yeah.
The young, pretty trophy wife, quote unquote.
Yeah.
The rich
I
one.
I get that, but I think more so now we're entering the conversation of where, and I think you touched upon it. It's no longer, you know, innocent until proven guilty because everything is thrown out there. And there's different variations of it. Obviously, everybody, like I said, unless you're living under a rock, has heard the recording, the excerpt, or whatever the case may be. Now the man's bedroom activities is being questioned, and it's put on Front Street. And I think we've heard it all. We've heard even people trying to question his own sexuality. Now, this
Which I
is
don't understand.
correct.
No.
I'm
One
not
has
a
nothing to do
fan.
with the other.
No, I'm not a fan of that. Like, I get it. People dress differently, especially if you are shaped a certain way and, or like you talk or you like what you like. I get it. I get it. But again, and I cannot say this enough, we live in a world where people love to judge. So if you see somebody that I guess doesn't mirror your, ideology of what a masculine male or a feminine female, that then it's automatically assumed that you are playing for the opposite team, or you're swinging. It goes all over the place, and I think it's unfortunate because now, even like in the dating world, what this is going to present is that a lot of people, whether you're rich or not even rich, you thought NDAs was a very sacred thing. I think it's going to be out in the open now because of situations being elevated like this, and law people being almost persecuted for like the minimal, very minimal things, and being put out on Front Street, which I just don't understand. Like, there's no decorum, there's no like level of like, my business is my business and what me and this person share, because this young lady recorded every phone call, the text messages, there's screenshot galore. It's just all over the place. So
Yeah.
I just don't know, like, in what direction. Not only this, but will he be the last? No, of course
No.
not. This is going to be an ongoing trend because people have been rewarded for this kind of nonsense, and they've walked away they got in their just due. And what I mean by their just due is financially, their pockets have been lined up.
Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be fortunately, a long few months for Mr. Sharp because more stuff's going to keep coming out, especially since now there's supposedly other people. I mean, quite the timing.
Of
How it
course.
all comes out. Everyone just comes out at the same time. But I digress. But it's just there's a lot of things come into play in this, in that people, generally speaking, obviously everyone's in everyone else's business,
Mm-hmm.
but people also lack modesty. Um, my favorite thing: shame does not exist.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a different. It's just a different. We're just living a different time now.
Yeah.
Because you didn't know what happened in people's bedrooms a few years ago. There were stories, there was rumors, there was like, I think I saw him this one time with this one, but that was it. Everything, whatever happened behind closed doors, stayed behind closed doors. And since now everything has, in a way, been forced to be open, like it's weird if you don't know something about somebody. It's probably the only way I can say it.
Yeah,
It's weird.
I agree with you. I think this notion of, I don't know if this has to do with social media. I don't know if it's, the drastic change and people wanting attention, wanting the allure of people knowing something about them or the next person. I just don't, me per se, I don't get it. I don't live my life that way. I don't knock people for that. I know it's just not for me. And I think a lot of it has to do with wanting to be seen, because clearly, as you stated before, the occupation of this young lady, being a sex worker, only fan, whatever, it's not exactly like she's Mother Teresa. So I don't understand like what people are looking at, because you can hear through the different blogs and different, people are free to comment, and I think
Right.
this is the world we live in. So now people are questioning the age gap, questioning how, even the physicality, him being as big as he is, and now that her picture is out there, how small, petite, whatever that
Right.
she is. And I think, again, all that stuff seemingly has taken a life of its own. And, it paints that he said, she said, which is very
It does.
classic.
And I mean, granted, yes, she was very young when they first met. Fine. I get it. Technically, she's still a consenting adult.
Right.
Got that. We got that from her OF. She's a very consenting adult. However, I would have hoped if this was, at the end of the day, she did what she did, at least at some point, up to a certain point, willingly.
Right.
Because they met, was at the gym, exchanged numbers, started
Mhm.
interacting, commenting, and then everything happened.
Right.
You can't tell me that she didn't tell her friends, go, oh my God, guess I saw the gym today. Guess who got my number? Guess what I'm saying? It wasn't that huge a secret.
Right.
And I know this, being that she, as young as she was, she told some people. She told some people. So there's like that part of it. And at any point, she could have walked away, technically. Because I would think, too, if things like that were already happening in the relationship, I
Hmm.
doubt it happened the first night they were together. I'm sure at some point he kind of had to like see where this went before making a suggestion, I should say.
Right.
I would like to make that assumption that it was like it came up in conversation, like, hey, so what do you like? What do you this? And then it came to that and then progressed.
Right.
Um, this was not a quick relationship. This lasted 2 years, 3 years.
About 2 years. I think it was 2022, late 2022, early 2023. This all transpired.
So already in a some type of relationship up to the first incident, which was in October. So you already had some things happening.
Hmm.
There was a situation. Most people, if Now, I understand if at that moment there was no police support. I'm not gonna, generally speaking, I'm not gonna put that on her. Because I'm putting people who go through that and they just go they just go away, type of thing. Because as someone who has seen and dealt with things of that nature, the whole police thing is also an equally traumatizing experience. So I can't put it on that first instant. She want to do a police report? Fine. I won't put that against her. My thing is that was October and then it happened again in January.
Right.
So 3 months, there's 3 months in between. Why, if he was dangerous, made you feel uncomfortable, whatever adjective you want to use in that moment, would you put yourself in a situation to be in a room alone with this person again?
Yeah, very great point.
Especially when she fits in his pants pocket.
Good point.
That's the one I can't. If it happened just that one instance, I'd be like, this could usually go either way. Granted, I say again, outside the police support part, but then you put yourself in harm's way again. I doubt he went to your house and dragged you by your hair and made. No, this is willing. Again, don't be mad that I'm questioning you.
Yeah.
Everyone should question you. Everyone should be, what? Huh? No.
Right. I think what it does to my mind, because I tend to be, a person, a lot of times people accuse me of like being victim shaming and stuff like that, or victim blaming, or however you want to classify it, because I'm not, number one, I'm not a person that's easily moved by just accusations. First of all, they're alleged. I wasn't there, and neither were you. And I think a lot of people are just quick to jump on the quote unquote bandwagons and be like, see, I told you this, that, and the third.
I knew he was weird.
Correct.
I knew he was weird. When he wore that outfit with the messenger bag, I knew then that there was an issue.
Right.
The green outfit.
Yeah. So when people start doing stuff like that, that actually makes me not want to like even further the discussion with them, because you already showed your hand. It shows that, like, especially like for me, I don't know all the details.
None of us do.
Yeah, I don't know all the details. Neither do you. And for you to sit here and just like persecute somebody on just like a small sample size of what you heard makes you completely foolish. It just makes you ridiculous in its totality, because you are passing judgment on something that you probably don't know how many people are into that.
Yeah.
That could be, that probably is his preference. The only difference now is that it's out on Front Street.
That's what I don't understand. Like, I don't agree with. Now, correct me.
Mm-hmm.
Was he fired or just put like on pause by ESPN?
He put out the statement. I think there's a lot of, dodging, but we know how corporate world works. If you agree to step down, I've never heard of anybody saying I'm stepping down by my own, by my own will. I think he was probably strong armed, and they told him until this kind of.
Well, there was some type of agreement made. Like,
correct.
If you step down now, we'll give you X, Y, and Z. Okay, fine.
Or we'll come back and review.
Yeah,
because everybody does their investigation. That's any job. Everybody does their investigation.
Is, granted, it may not be perceived normal what he did, but it's technically not illegal. I told you this. Outside of incestuous or animals,
right?
Technically, nothing he did was illegal.
No,
technically, for the consensual part of it, as far as the rough housing,
right?
Technically not illegal. So that's the only thing I could see something like that happen. But until I could see it putting on pause, like, okay, we'll see how this turns out, and then we'll meet again, type of thing. Yeah. But we said it before. We saw it was So the court of public opinion is damning. We see people being accused, lose everything, and they're like, just kidding, false alarm, it wasn't true. And didn't even get a sorry and
No.
lost a whole livelihood.
Yeah, of course not. You're never going to get that. I mean, God rest his soul, Kobe Bryant had his own situation. I
Yeah.
think if people remember 2003, 2004, that midst of things, and, you know, similar to
RZA
what
got
you just
slapped
finished
for
saying.
marriage, and you're still gonna marry. That remember that was the lavender diamond,
Yep.
and I was like, well, again, she's the one that laying in bed with him. If she feels comfortable doing that, that's on her. What?
Not only that, because that was similar, but that one ended up being far more. And I think that almost actually did make it. It almost did make it into the courts because he was in the midst of a playoff run and
Yeah.
he would fly. I know he had to, they were, giving him private flights because there were times where he had to be in court and he would have a game a couple of hours after and he would have to make it. And, and then ultimately, if I'm not, if I'm mistaken, you can correct me if I'm wrong. The girl made it up because she was, what was that? American Idol. She was an American Idol hopeful or something like that.
Yeah, some type
And
of
she
show.
was, yeah, she was like bipolar. I don't know. I remember it being something, but
Well, and then there was Trevor Bauer, got
Yep.
let go from the Dodgers,
Yep.
and it was a whole shakedown. Text message, everything. And Dodgers like, yep, bye, see ya. And he was adamant. He was like, that no. It was consensual, no. And then the story came out, and the text message with the friend, and the phone calls, and okay, I might have made it up. Sorry. No one apologized to Trevor.
Nope.
And and he never played after that, I don't think.
But the whole essence of it is that like there is no sorrow, there's no reprieve for that person being accused. Once you're accused, that's a stain, that smear stays because
There's
you're
something that is
accused.
going to. It's one of these situations that there's losers on all sides.
Correct.
It's just
Um,
no one technically wins anything from this.
yeah.
Technically, like it just sucks on all sides. No matter
However,
what.
in Shannon Sharp's situation, I put it to you like this. He did try to suppress it early on the front end. He offered $10 million for whatever was going on because I guess he had already prior knowledge that she had voice recordings and recorded some of their stuff going on behind closed doors. And I'm sure she's that type, being that she's young, knows the internet very well,
Mm-hmm.
threatened to push it on to the blogs and things like that. And, for to less of a better term, to get rid of a headache, he offered 10 million, which she obviously turned it down.
Yeah, because at the back of his mind, he also knew if this comes out, this is gonna ruin my career.
Yeah, I mean,
You're messing with him. You're messing with my money.
yeah,
Like,
I mean,
that part I'm sure and say he's like this. Oh my god, especially ESPN/Disney. No. So
yeah,
I'm like, he had that knowledge, consensual or not. He was like, this is gonna get into the wrong hands, and this is not gonna end well for me.
no, yeah. Look, you can do whatever you want. I think right now we're entering a climate now where if you make money, not I don't want to I don't I'm not talking about people who make six figures because even six figures is not
That
enough to
means nothing.
sustain that you can't even sustain a regular life now. You know what I mean?
Not here.
So I think for people like him, where he has a lot of pots going,
Mm-hmm.
he has a lot of sponsors, and I think some of the sponsors actually dropped them today. A lot of sponsors going, a lot of business endeavors here, there, and whatsoever. Um, you become, and I'm not trying to be funny. You become very handsome. You become very viable, especially if
Yeah.
you're not married or anything like that. And even these days, some don't even care if you're married.
Marriage means nothing
They
here.
they will force themselves upon you, and it comes with the territory. I hate to say it. Can it be avoided? Yes and no, but it's a very dicey situation. But there's more that comes with the Shannon Sharp plight, and hopefully it doesn't get into trial. Hopefully it just gets settled, and everybody can just move on and do their thing. But let's move on to the other half of this discussion, Miss Tracy Ellis Ross. And she has sent shockwaves in her own right, stating, I think everybody's cue, very highlighted, air quotes, whatever that you want to say about how she's living life on her own terms.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a dating preference.
Yes.
And she does not care who likes it or not. And she is who she is. And she's, kind of put it out there that she is comfortable in her own skin. She has moved like this for the better portion of her life. However, it does not have its cons, and where she has some regrets, but not to the extent that I think a lot of people may think or say.
No. So I actually, because the soundbite heard around the world was about the probably two soundbites. One, the younger men, because men of her age engage in toxic masculinity, one of your favorite buzzwords. And the other thing was the grieving part of her life that was never going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Those two soundbites. And I told you to go, I have to listen to the whole episode because these are sound bites. You don't know what was said before or what was said after. They took 10 seconds and made it a whole thing.
Sure.
So I sat and watched the whole podcast. And she said a couple other questionable things. But it wasn't that bad because they were times that things she said was rebuffed by First Lady Michelle Obama and her brother. That there was something they were like, wait, what? Can you explain that more? Because there were some things that she just didn't talk freely.
Yep.
Now, Miss Tracy Ellis Ross, she's 52.
Mm-hmm.
Never been married, does not have any children.
All right.
She's one of five children.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So her upbringing, a little different than Mr. Sharp. Okay. She came from a well-to-do family. She's the second child for Dana Ross from her first marriage. Mm-hmm. So she only has one whole sister. The rest are half siblings. So her upbringing was a little bit different. Now, obviously, environment's different, resources, and whatever case may be. Okay, fine. Her trajectory was obviously famous mom, cool. We all know Tracy Ellis Ross as a actress. Very successful actress. She's a producer. She also has her own brands. Mm-hmm. She has her own, I think she's a production company, but she also has a hair care line she came out with a couple years ago. So she's doing things for herself. So one of the comments that she made is that she dates younger men. Now, the only thing I can say that did not divulge, and she didn't say, is younger. That's all that was said. We're not quite sure how young these men get. We could assume. So the one thing I can say, I can't say that she dated a 19-year-old. We have no idea. She just said younger. And her thing about dating younger men is that the men of her age, her generation, are, how should I engage in toxic masculinity? And I was like, huh? I'm thinking that's not too far older from like the age that she's talking about. It's like my brother's age. I was like, toxic masculinity. She got into it. They're men of this age, they're a little more traditional. They're into gender roles and things of that nature. She's an independent woman, your favorite. We're not doing tradition here. So that was her big thing was they're traditional and they were like something, and I was like, but like to me, that's not toxic. That's normal. I don't know. This is the men of her age are what quote unquote what a real man is, depending on who you ask. So I was like, okay, that's weird. And the other part of it was that men of that age, they're not very open. They're not ones to speak on things when it comes to like the emotional standpoint type of thing. That was her thing. She believes that younger men are much more fluid with communication. They're fluid. They express themselves more. And she got into gender fluidity. I was like, I'm not touching that. I'm not touching that part. But that was her thing, that the men who are younger are more open.
Mm-hmm.
They're more communicative, especially with things of that nature. That because something's bothering them or it's not right, like they say it and they
Right.
want to communicate. So that's what draws her to the younger men, not the men of her age. Not to say she says I've dated men my age, but that's the same problem that she kept like running into, and then she's like, this isn't for me. This is not new.
I think, the biggest conversation that needs to be had is that, you know, people coming up with these terminologies, right?
You don't like
Toxic,
buzzwords?
no.
Oh,
Toxic masculinity, you know, and all these other ones that come into the fold. I think people need to stop it. They really do, because now it's really taken a life of its own, because now we're using that almost as like a hill to stand on. Um, someone is toxic, guess what? Just leave. You have not dated every man in the world in your age bracket. Cut
there's
it.
one thing she did say. She kept saying, I am generalizing. I can only speak to what I've encountered.
And which
She
is
kept
fine.
stressing it.
Right, which is fine, because you know why? Now you're messing around with a very dicey road and a dicey conversation. I think for the better portion of the past 4 to 5 years, this has been a discussion that's been laid out. Different platforms, different podcasts, different people speaking their positioning as it comes to in relationships, ages, how you should you know present yourself on first dates, and how you should
Right.
conduct yourself along in long-term relationships or situationships, and vice versa. It's just all over the place. I don't really pay attention to that, because as you and I have discussed numerous of times, these people that do these things, let me explain something to you. They are doing it from their standpoint.
Right.
It has nothing to do with you. They give you insight and they give you guidance, but it does not mean that you take their stuff or take their wording and do what they said for verbatim. I'm not going to sit here and tell you if he or she blinks twice, they're cheating. We're not
He's
playing that.
breathing.
And I've been around people who subscribe to it. We both have social media. So now it's one of those things. It's not even now. It's always been one of those things that if you see you see these posts, you see these quotes going around, and everybody is like this grandiose. So like, aha, like this person did this. So yeah, I saw that. Yeah, girl, or like, yeah, homeboy, she got to go. If she do,
Yes,
like, that is not the way to conduct your life. Another thing, if
what?
you are in your 20s, this is suggested to you, 18 to 30 years old. That's their demographic that they're talking to. If you are at the age of 35 and up, and you are looking at these people as the quote unquote Bible, seek some help. You have problems. I'm telling you, you're going to only cause problems in your own relationship, because a lot of the times, those people, whether you think they're pandering, whether you think they're giving you fantastic advice, they are also doing the things that they are telling you not to deal with.
Are they going home to their wives and husbands? And
correct. All that stuff.
Yeah.
Telling you not to cook and clean and tolerate and not to accept this kind of day, and not that's a lot of times that's a lot of the reason why a lot of people are sitting at home not doing anything, because they're sitting here divulging and just like zoned in to what these people are saying. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be funny about it, and I'm not trying to discourage anybody by any way, shape, or form. We have our own minds and we have our own lives. But I think like I said, for the better portion of the past 4 to 5 years, this is the road and this is the echoes that you hear. And I'm not going to say it's concerning, because it's everyone's prerogative. You can do whatever you want.
Right.
But this is not, let me tell you something. This is not sustainable. People are married now. Okay. If you are lucky enough to get married, or not even married, we don't even have, if you are in a relationship, I'm telling you, do not sour yourself listening to these people, because the whole idea of it is, you know how you fix the problem with your relationship? You talk to that same exact person that you have the problem with, because you talk to your friend, you talk to this one, you talk to that one. All they're going to give you is something you want to hear to soothe your mind and your peace. But at the end of the day, your mind, your peace, and all that other good stuff eradicates the second you see that person, because that's the person that you need to address it with.
Yeah. So like one of the things that she touched on, obviously she said, she's like, I have a full life, I have my career, I have things, whatever, and just I'm generally happy. It's not like I'm not saying feel like something's missing in my life because I don't have a partner. It's just that I guess it's way she worded, like she's not putting too much emphasis on it. Or at least she wasn't at one point, I would say. Because one thing she talked about was that her being independent, free choice, doing short. So she got her career. Okay, great, fine. She's like, yeah, I understand relationships, but I don't want to be in a relationship just to be in one, which I get that point too. Some people just cannot be by themselves, and they are in a relationship for the wrong reasons. That tenet I did agree with. That I'm not going to be in a relationship just to be in one because I'm supposed to be in one, or whatever case it be. That I understand. You should want to be in a relationship because you want to be in one,
of course,
not because you have to be in one. Like, so that, like, that one I didn't disagree with. Then she got into chemistry and love. There's like chemistry alone, does that build a relationship or can't sustain a relationship? You need love, but then you can have love without chemistry. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about that one. Because for me, chemistry is not always sexual, but there is an attraction.
Of course.
You should be attracted to your partner. I was like, how love without chemistry? I'm like, I don't know. I didn't quite agree with that one. You need to have attraction. You have to like your partner.
Yeah.
You have to have some type of, I don't mean like this passionate, like, okay, fine. There's not necessarily chemistry. To me, chemistry is just attractiveness.
Yeah.
Do I want to be in the space of this person?
Yeah, I agree with you with that. I think people, when they start the different word plays, it gets kind of dicey, like you said. Whether she's
that's one she is good, because I think it's like a relationship is, if you're basing solely on chemistry and that's all there is, that's not sustainable. And she's two relationships are like that. I'm like, so there are some things she did. I get what she was saying. But love without chemistry, I was like, I don't know about that. And then the thing about her, she got to a certain age, like she got her career, she was successful in that realm. She does have her family, so she does have a quote unquote good life in all realms,
right,
but didn't have that partner. So she got into, it got to the point, she got to a particular age, and I looked around, was like, I don't have a partner, don't have no husband, no, children or family of her own, and she had to grieve that part of her life. And that part I do understand. Like that part I got, because I had that grieving process also. Because one thing she didn't say was that, or she didn't touch on, was like she didn't say that she always wanted to be a wife and a mom.
Right.
Type of thing. That's one thing I watched. I'm like, if she said it, I missed it. She didn't say that. Like she grieved it in a part that I think it just got to pick her age, that she was like, well, if it hasn't been at this point, I guess it's not going to happen, type of thing.
Right.
And that's the only thing I was like, it's different. Like I grieved it, but I grieved it differently because I wanted to be a wife and mom. I've always thought myself, my whole adult life was I always wanted to be a wife and a mother.
Right.
And that's always been that way. Unfortunately, it got to a particular age where, I'm nobody's wife and therefore I'm not going to be a mother. And that was something very hard for me to come to terms with because I wanted the husband, the marriage, the house, the 2 kids, a dog in the suburbs. I didn't want a husband. I wanted a marriage. I wanted to build a life with somebody and have children and raise this beautiful family. I wanted that.
Right.
And I don't have that. So for me, my grief was probably a little different than hers because I always wanted that and did not achieve it. And it got to a point that I was like, I'm never going to have this. And it was very hard for me. It was a very hard part of my life that I had to it was hard for me to come to terms with that. It was very difficult for me because I wanted that to be a very major part of my life.
Right.
Unfortunately, life did not work out that way. So for me personally, I did feel like something's missing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it may be a wife, but depending who you ask, especially at the Kevin Samuels school of dating, that I'm not going to be no one's wife ever because whatever. I could definitely say I'm never going to be a mother. Like that much I can say. And that I can say wholeheartedly, I'm just not going to be a mom. And I had to come to terms with that. And that was not easy for me to do.
I think when it comes to like relationships and whatever aspect it is, I think people need to be real about it in terms of, the biology of, biological breakdown of it. Men, we're able to have kids and reproduce till like we're on our deathbed. And females, you have the proverbial biological clock. I know for a lot of females, it differs. And, you guys get the good old menopause at a certain age. I think that varies as well. And, but, with science and stuff, which has a whole, genre in itself, you're able to save and reproduce or put together and have a child. But I think when you look at certain nuances in relationships now, when you take particular things from Shannon Sharp and you take particular things from Tracy Ellis Ross, I think what people have to understand is these are 2 people in their 50s. Okay. They've lived both seemingly good lives. He was a professional athlete and, he has 3 kids. Obviously never been married, whatever the case may be. And on the flip side, you have Tracy Ellis Ross, also in her 50s and successful acting, producing, directing, and things like that. And, doesn't have any kids. That, that probably, that's the path that it is. Some people will say, oh, divine wisdom, this, that, like, and all these kind of craziness. You just never know what someone is going through, is my point. You never know someone's outlook because there are a lot of people running around here. And I think that's what gets me sometimes with people, whether it's a man or woman. Because us men, we have our ways where it can be very, very, rude and brash. And, we get labeled. And just because a handful of men or this, or if it's a continuous problem in certain females, that's the label that's attained by all men. And even there was a campaign, if I'm not mistaken, it's not never some or any, it's all men until it's no men, that it was put out there on one of the social media platforms. And I thought it was completely ridiculous, but obviously that person they were in their feelings and they were clearly butthurt about something. But I say that to say this, like, listen, we live in a world where everybody's free of their own decisions. Like I said earlier, it is everybody's prerogative. You can do whatever it is that you want. You can life has different lanes for everyone. But I think a lot of people cling on everyone's last word. I think a lot of people want guidance but can't see guidance within themselves or the person they're in the relationship with. And I think that's where it poses a lot of problems. These two individuals are just clearly showing you that no one's perfect. Like they have their faults and they wanted certain stuff at certain times, but maybe it wasn't meant for them. And it doesn't make it does not to say that they were inadequate in any way, shape, or form, but these are things that people go through. Everyone goes through it. You have decisions to make, and sometimes they fall by the wayside because time. That's one thing in this life we'll never get. We're never going to get time back. So like everyone is always like pushing, shoving, like we're in some kind of rat race to one up each other. And I do shorts on YouTube every now and then, and I tell people, listen, there are people that just lurk and check in on you just to make sure you're not doing better than them. And that is true. So I hope people understand that, like, whatever direction you take your life in or whatever decisions you do, whether it's relationships or whatever the case may be, make sure you're willing to stand on it, because there are a lot of people who will say they're standing on something, but in the background, they're crying and they're like grieving in some way, shape, or form. And that's both. I've seen men cry. I've seen obviously females cry. Like, it's a hard pill to swallow because we're not getting younger. And I think a lot of people are missing that fact. Yeah, I think me and you joke about it, and more so you always tell me about how people present themselves on social media or how certain people are going out trying to recapture their heyday. And I laugh with you because I'm just not like that. I don't care. To be honest, I don't care to be outside, especially now how the world is circulated and being. I cannot deal with that. You're talking to someone who barely likes noise. If your voice goes up certain decimals, I just don't want to hear it. And
I had an exciting weekend at Home Goods.
right, okay. So
very exciting.
It's just those situations where it's like, people. The whole thing is people are going to judge. They're free to judge, but it's also your prerogative to live your life however you want to. Yeah. Like, Tracy Ellis Ross, do I, agree with it? I'm not a woman, so I can't speak on that behalf, and that's something where, like, I know my lane. But as far as the Shannon Sharp thing, yes, I get it. Have I been ever in that situation? Absolutely not. But with him, it's more so, and I hate to say it, he came into some money, he grew a brand, and now it's all eyes on me. That's all. Yeah. And, some for good, and obviously a lot for bad, which is now coming into the forefront.
Yeah, like, everyone's in the spot that they're in for whatever reason. Choices that they made or choices that were made for them in some instances. That's just how it was. Could I go back and change some decisions I made? I mean, if I could, it'd be nice. Maybe I'd have my husband, 2 kids in the house. Like, I don't know. Nothing I could do about it now, but get a couple cats, a call a day. But, that's about it.
Yeah.
But, it's a hard pill to swallow. And, while people talk about, like the feminist movement, blah, blah, whatever, kind of, I'm nowhere near a feminist. I do things on my own because someone has to do it. Someone else here. If I had a choice, no, would not do it on my own. But that's just how life is at the moment. Could I be someone's wife? Who knows? At this day and age, I'm not. It's like a winning lotto ticket at this point. There are some things like men of a certain age have to come to terms with. Some things I have to come to terms with, and I may not agree with it, but it's the hand that was dealt to me, and I make the best of it. I'm saying that involves being a hermit with two cats, then so be it. I mean, I can't produce a kid out of nowhere, so you know, it is what it is. It's not always easy. You're not gonna like what's in front of you. You gotta just make the best of it.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out what that best is for me because now that it sucks to say, but I have to probably have to try and fill that void because that void's not going to go away.
And that's
But
understandable.
something I have to figure it out. I have to just figure it out.
Yeah, it's understandable, and it's also commended because a lot of people just can't do simple tasks on their own. Not that this is simple, but it's it's a life, and it's a choice, and it's not a choice that you necessarily wanted, but it's like you just finished saying, it's a card that you've been dealt, and you are coming to terms with accepting it one way or another. I think for me, how I want to close this episode out is just explaining to people that, listen, be very careful about what you're doing because there's always someone lurking, watching, plotting, investigating, doing something. Just because someone puts out there that they can find out or they feel they quote unquote have the resources to find out things, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just be who you are. Just be a genuine person. Just be a good person. I think a lot of times people fall into boxes and where if you are dating with someone or if you are in husband married thing, like trust is always being questioned. um the genuineness of the relationship is always questioned. We, for God's sake, we have people out here sharing locations. I don't understand that.
What people out there sharing spouses?
That's fair, but at the same token, we have these retarded shows that they have on Bravo and stuff like that, where I'll be quite honest, speaking from a male perspective, it makes you want to tune a lot of women out watching some of these shows and hearing some of the verbiage and commentary that comes out of these shows because they're not showing a lot of women successful things. And I get it. The people are going to say, oh, well, we have the Cam Newtons of the world. We have the Shannon Sharp. We have this and we have that. And they're producing broken homes. And then you have Neo running around with women. And then you have Nick Cannon impregnating 15 people. And listen,
I've dealt with the people that have multiple relationships going at the same time. It's not fun. It's not fun.
It never is fun. I'm not saying that is for everybody. And I'm not saying that it's something people should engage in. However, what I am saying is people do need to know how and when to mind their business because not involved, like inserting yourself in these kind of things only, it just illuminates that you are like putting yourself in, inserting yourself in something you do not belong in. And I think a lot of times that's where the discrepancies start. Like I know people are going to be like, "Oh, cheating is wrong," this, that, and the third. Yes, we get it. We get it.
Don't get me started on that.
We get it. But I'm not the judge, juror, and executioner. I'm not that. If that doesn't involve you, don't let it concern you. I think there are a lot of people poking around because you know why? Now it's to the point where the good old social media, because now if you do something, everyone is over there trying to figure it out. Oh, who took the picture? Who's this? Where you at? This, that, like that never works. Trust me. A lot of people, primarily women, think that works. It doesn't. It does not move a lot of people because you know why? There are people that are really going to tell you, you ask me that question, I'm going to give you the answer, but are you willing to accept it? I don't think a lot of people are willing to accept certain truths about it. That's why you have people who skirt around answers and just give them what they want to hear. But a lot of time, for me, I'll just tell you, I have no problem telling you who took the picture. The person behind the camera. That's it. I'm not going to sit here and have a verbal jousting situation with people about something that doesn't pertain to them. It's not hurting anybody. At the end of the day, it's a picture. But nowadays, pictures seem to be the dagger that can separate how strong or how weak a relationship really is.
And the comments. Can't forget the comments.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you can't say it enough. There's always going to be people trying to speak on something that they know nothing about. They're
No, I
only.
mean like comments on a picture,
Oh, yeah.
not like verbal comments.
Well, yeah. Hey, listen, I'll leave that to the people that are interested in that stuff. I can't. I'm still trying to I'm not trying to get over it. I used to have, the back and forth about liking pictures. I'm not. I'm over it. I just don't do it. And it is what it is. But it's always going to be a dicey topic in itself. That little gesture. But that's my spew for what I have to say. Y'all go ahead.
The dating world sucks. When you get to a particular age, if you're not fulfilling a particular role, you're going to be judged on. I'm judged on every day because I don't have a husband, nor do I have children, nor am I any close to it now than I was 5 years ago. So I get judged upon every day. People ask me, do you have kids? No. Why? I don't answer that question. I just walk away. I'm like, because I don't. Why I don't why I don't have a husband, that's really none of your concern. Just know I don't have one. If you know someone who wants to be my husband, that's a different conversation. Otherwise, that's it. That's what I need to know. That's what I need to know. And there's just things on both ends. Men too. If you reach a particular age, you're like, you don't have a wife? I know you got it too. You're not married? Do you have a girlfriend? Why not? Don't you want to have kids? That's my favorite one. Don't you want to have kids? I mean, I am not one of these people, but there are people in this world who do not want to have children. They exist. They want no parts of it. They want no. And that's people. That's okay. It's okay. But yeah, you just gotta grow a thick skin, and if you have to be mean about it, be mean about it. I mean every day. I don't care.
Yeah.
If it hurt your feelings, it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. Well, this is obviously a discussion that will be everlasting. And as it pertains to Miss Tracy Alice Ross and Mr. Shannon Sharp.
Listen, Tracy's living her best life, and Shannon needs to figure some things out.
He'll be fine. I think it'll eventually get settled out, and but he'll be the butt of all jokes for a little bit. But he has thick skin, so
he's gonna have a lot of dust fall on him, unfortunately.
He'll be all right.
I mean, he will come out of it in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
He's gonna survive this. It's gonna be a hit. It's gonna be a hit. Unfortunately, he will come out of it, though. He will. He has good people around him. He will come out of it. It's just going to take some time.
He'll be fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just got to put some money in some escrow, because it's going to take a lot of lawyer fees, legal fees to deal with all this kind of nonsense.
Live vicariously through Tracy.
Yeah, well, listen, I don't have no problem with her. I maybe the wording, because if it's good for females, they're ready to persecute men if a guy had said that. So
well, yeah, because guys are groomers.
Yeah, well,
we're nurturers.
Yeah, good for you guys. But anyway, people, have a good evening. This has been our, table talk, so to speak. Okay. But no, all joking aside, listen, just be good. Just be good out there. Stop judging. It doesn't pay to judge. You're not getting a stipend. You don't get a referral fee for judging or out there being in somebody else's business. So mind your goddamn business. That's the show for tonight. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. I know you guys in real life. I know you guys who tap in and like the material, comment. Good, bad, or whatever. Just comment.
Well, we can take it. We can take it.
Yeah,
Don't hold back.
We have thick skin. But anyway, have a good night, guys. This has been tonight's episode. Bye.
Bye.